Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel this morning. I'm doing something a little different today. In my first video, which was just about a week ago, I touched on the fact that I am an estranged mom and grandmother, and just wanted to share a little bit more about that. And again, the reason for starting my YouTube channel was I found myself giving out the same advice over and over to moms and grandmothers out there who are dealing with this same issue. And I know the feelings. Many times they express such sadness and desperation, and how do I get through the day? How do I go forward? How do I live like this? And I understand that. I'm 6.5 years into this, and it took me some time to figure it out. Of course, the biggest thing that gives hope is just knowing that we can pray and believe. We have to believe when we pray that God hears those prayers and that He's going to answer in His way and His time. And it's hard being patient in the meantime because you miss out on so much. Like I said, I'm 6.5 years into this, and I've missed those many years of my grandchildren's lives, and it's really hard. But anyway, I've touched on also that part of the reason I started this was because I kept giving people the same advice, which is what I've done that's helped me. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just get a little more specific and show women out there what I'm doing, what I have been doing. I always say, get a hobby, find a hobby, spend time with friends, get busy. Decorating my home is something I really enjoy, and I like nice things, but sometimes those come with a really nice price tag. But I do find there's things that literally can cost hundreds of dollars, if not more, retail, but you can actually make them yourself. Sometimes it's a matter of just getting pieces and putting them together into something beautiful. But anyway, I've got a couple of those videos on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be doing more, especially with the holidays coming up. There'll be a lot more decorating, a lot more doing, and I don't really craft. That's not my thing at all. But really just kind of pulling things together, small DIY projects. I don't consider it crafting. But anyway, what I wanted to share today is a little more about my story. I read a lot of these online. When I became an estranged parent and grandparent 6.5 years ago, there was one organization out there, I think, devoted to estranged parents and grandparents. And unfortunately, there's a lot more of those today, and a lot more people that are members. So I have found in reading a lot of the stories that I could almost insert my daughter's name and it would be almost the same story. So anyway, but they are different. There are differences, and I'm just sharing a little of the background of mine today. So 6.5 years ago was when the estrangement began, but the problems began before that. There was a lot of drama and trauma, and what my husband and I called walking on very thin eggshells. And so my daughter got pregnant, got married at a young age, fairly young. I think she was 21. And she didn't live with her husband, but maybe a month, and she came to live with us. She lived out her pregnancy with us. We brought the baby home. They were with us the first 6 months, and at 6 months, she got so angry. She had basically one of her fits of rage and left with the baby, and we didn't know where they were for weeks. So at that time, I just reflected back, when did it get this bad? How did it get this bad? And I realized that prior to the baby being born, things were really good. We had lunch together, we shopped together for the baby, we had lunch with my mom, we had some good times. But once that baby was born and we brought that baby home, it was downhill from day one, to the point where 6 months later she left, walked out, and didn't tell us where she was going. So I had a very close friend of mine praying, and she called one day and she said, Beth, I've been praying for, I'll call her Sarah. That's not her real name. She said, I've been praying for Sarah. And she said, the Lord just spoke to me today in prayer and said, this is a generational spirit. And it came on her because she became a parent. So I kind of kept that information to myself. I didn't share it with my daughter. Several months later, maybe a year later, we were in counseling with her pastor and his wife. And I had no intention of bringing that up. It was nowhere in my mind's radar. But when we sat down in that session, it came to me, and I felt like I was supposed to share that. So I did. And the pastor was sitting across from me. My daughter was sitting next to me. And he asked her, Sarah, does that make any sense to you? Didn't hear her response. I finally looked over to her, and she was sobbing and crying. And she said, finally, more than you know. I've been angry since the day the baby was born. So he prayed for her that day, but things did not change. The anger did not leave. She left, came back again with another baby, left and came back a third time pregnant with the third baby. And this time they lived with us for a longer stretch of time, the three babies and her. And then she decided she wanted to go to Bible college. So she did. She went to Bible college in Dallas. And she graduated from there 3 years later, which was May of 2018. We went to her graduation. We did a celebratory luncheon for her afterwards with the children and some of her friends. And I had no idea I would walk away from that and never hear her voice again and never see her again. But that's exactly what happened. And she became a praise and worship leader for a little church outside of Dallas. And there's a lot to that story. I'll share some more of that later on. But anyway, that's in a nutshell what's happened over the last few years, the last 6.5 years, particularly with the estrangement. And so I just wanted to share that. I don't know if that resonates with anybody out there. If anybody has had a similar story, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear ways that you found to make it easier to walk through this, other than the obvious of faith and believing that God's going to bring something good out of this. So anyway, and do come back. I'm going to be doing lots of projects and decorating for the holidays, and it's a lot of fun. It's so good to make your home someplace you love walking into, that you love being. It's real good for your mind, for your psyche to come into your home and for it to be a place you love. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the things I'm sharing, and I'd love to hear from you all, and hope you'll come back and join me again soon. Thank you.